Hi, Verbling. My name's Michaela. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. And right now we're talking about sentence structure. We'll be discussing a lot of the elements in sentence structure and how to use some of them. If you guys have questions or comments on this class or would like to suggest material for a future class, let me know on Facebook.
Hello.
Hi, Sultan. Welcome to class. Lovely
Hi,
to
my
see you
teacher.
back.
Hello, my
How
teacher.
are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. You're
Excellent.
good?
Studying hard?
Alhamdulillah. How are you doing? Long time.
Awesome. Yeah, it has been a long time. Good to have you with us.
Inshallah. Thanks.
All right. Rafa, welcome to class.
Thank you very much, teacher.
And how are you today, Rafa?
I'm pretty fine.
Good.
This morning I
Glad
went
to
to
hear it.
play tennis with my mate, and later I have my lunch alone at home. It's time to chilling out, and later I had a 40 wings. It's a new word that I learned today. A 40 wings from another teacher. 40 wings.
40 wings. Cool.
40 wings. And later I joined to a class of English at Berlin. Half class, and right now with you, it could be very interesting.
Excellent. Sounds like a pretty nice day.
Yeah, I hope. Still,
Awesome.
I am waiting for the afternoon. I need to go to work later.
Oh, bummer.
Mama.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you with us before work.
Okay.
And Daniel, welcome to class.
Teacher.
And how are you doing today? Any special plans, Daniel?
No, regular day.
All right.
Take my child to
Children?
the school. Uh, Children, yes. Child. One.
Oh, just one. Oh, okay.
I have a couple, but only one go to school.
Ah,
The
the
other
others are
is
too young
is
still?
too young. Yes.
All right. So, exciting day, right?
Yeah. Learning English as
Yeah,
always.
fun. All right, thanks, Daniel. And Felipe, welcome to class.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks for asking.
Excellent. Any special plans for your day today, Felipe?
Oh no, right now I'm resting
Oh.
because this morning I had class, but now I finished my class, yeah? Because I live
Mm-hmm.
in Spain, then it's different timetable, suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, today we're talking about sentence structure. And before we get into some of the notes, I'd like to talk about the elements of sentence structure, which are called parts of speech. So think for a second about what parts of speech are. And I'm going to come around and ask you guys for some examples of parts of speech. Starting with Sultan, what are some parts of speech you can think of? Maybe just one part of speech.
Subject.
Subject, excellent. And what is a subject usually? Give us some examples.
He is, he, she,
Mm-hmm.
it.
Uh-huh.
He is go school to school.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So those are some subjects, but subjects is very broad. So Rafa, can you tell us any more about what a subject is and what words we can use there?
Could you repeat the question, please? 'Cause
Yes. Sultan started by telling us that subject is a part of speech, and he gave us some examples like he, she, and it. Can you give us any other examples of a subject or tell us more about what a subject is? What can be used as a subject?
Yeah, the subject is related with the who is who or what is the action of the verb. The verb make an action, play, and whatever you ask to the verb who is related with this action is the subject. For example, my home is located, my home, perhaps any kind of noun could be a subject. My is the first part of the sentence.
Excellent. And you hit on an important topic. Subjects are obviously the doer of the verb, but they're also just any noun. So you can make any noun the subject of a sentence, in addition to the pronouns that Sultan mentioned. So we can use pronouns here. We can use proper nouns like a name, Maria, Michaela, Daniel. Or we can just use any other noun. The sofa could be a great subject. So kind of broad. Felipe, what else do we use nouns for? So if we use a noun, but it's not the subject of a sentence, what is it? Oops, he's gone. All right. Daniel, same question to you. If we use a noun, but we're not using it as the subject of a sentence, what position does it occupy then?
The subject.
So sometimes nouns are a subject. Well,
Yes.
we talked a little about the subject and how it's like the doer of the action, and it comes in the beginning of the sentence usually. But what about when we use a noun that is not the subject? So we say something like, he walked the dog. So the dog is a noun, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the subject. So what is it?
The complement.
Okay, it's a kind of complement, for sure.
Complement indirect.
Aha. So we have two kinds, and we usually refer to them as objects, and we have direct and indirect objects, which is something we're going to be talking a lot about today. So direct and indirect objects. Like what, for example? We said the dog. Can you come up with any other examples of objects?
Another object, a place.
Could be a place. All right. What about she? Can I use the word she as an object?
No, her.
Exactly. So these change. All of those subjects we were talking about before, they're nouns, and so are these, but they change a little bit. So what are some of them? Give us a few examples of pronouns when they're objects.
The objects, direct objects or indirect objects.
I'm talking about when pronouns are used as an object. So we have she, her, he.
Okay. I, me, you, he, him, she, her, it, we, us, you, and they, them.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Daniel. That was a tough one, but you did an excellent job of describing those for us. And Ismail, welcome to class.
Hi, thank you.
Good to have you with us. Today we're talking about the structure of a sentence. And so far we've talked a lot about nouns, how nouns can function as the subject or the object of a sentence. Can you name another part of speech, another element of sentences?
Conjunctions.
Conjunctions. Yes. All right, and give us some examples of a conjunction.
But, and, or, for.
Awesome. Those are a lot of excellent examples. And next up is Ali Beck. Welcome to class.
Yes, hello, teacher.
Hey there, Ali Beck. We've talked about nouns being used as subjects and objects plus conjunctions. What's another element of sentence making? What else do we use to make a complete sentence?
Maybe adjectives.
Adjectives can be important. Give us some examples of adjectives.
Adjective, it means maybe the beautiful, bad, good. Hello.
Okay, those are good examples. Thanks, Ali Beck. Ken, welcome to class.
Yes, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing really well. We're talking about sentence structure. We've already talked about objects, subjects, conjunctions, and adjectives. What's another element of making a sentence?
Another conjunction. Period, full stop or period, or punctuation.
Punctuation, that can be very important. Organize our ideas. Punctuation like period, comma. All right. And we're back to Sultan. So Sultan, can you give us another element of a sentence? Now, we're still missing a couple main elements. Like if you want to make any short sentence, you need a subject and a... Sultan, any ideas?
I have no idea.
Okay, so in the sentence I gave earlier, I said something like he walks the dog, right? So we talked about he is the subject, the dog is the object. What about walks? What is that?
Verb.
Yeah, verb. So that's a really important part of sentence making. Give us some more examples of verbs, Sultan.
Eat, do, go, write,
Awesome.
speak.
Thank you very much, Sultan.
Okay.
Key element of sentence making. Rafa, we're back to you. Can you think of any other elements that we can sometimes use to make sentences?
I think verbs is another important part of the sentence.
You said verbs?
Verbs, yeah.
Okay, those are important. Would you like to give us some examples?
Yeah. Verbs is related to the action that you can say or you want to talk. For example, to do, to have, to be, to give, to keep, to maintain, any kind of verbs.
Excellent. And you gave us kind of an interesting thing. You used to in front of every verb, which is the most correct way to state an infinitive. Sometimes we use verbs without the to, especially when they're being conjugated. We don't use that. But usually in the infinitive, we do use that to before the verb. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Ismail, another sentence element. We're almost done, but we still have a couple important ones to talk about. After verbs, conjunctions, punctuation, adjectives, objects, and subjects, is there anything else that you sometimes use to make a sentence? Ismail, are you there?
Michaela, did we talk about adverb?
We have not yet talked about adverbs. Tell us, what is an adverb?
Adverbs determine some adjective and some verbs.
exactly. They describe adjectives or verbs. What are some examples?
Quickly, happily,
Mm-hmm. All right. Excellent examples. Most of the time they end in ly. So I would say like 98% of adverbs end in ly. But of course there are some irregular ones like well. A very common mistake is people mix up the word good and well. Well is an adverb and good is an adjective. Thank you very much, Ismail. Daniel, any other ideas?
Where, how,
Where and how, like the question words. Yes, those could be important. What are they? Where, how, there's a few more.
uh, which,
Mm-hmm.
whose, what, W's.
Yep.
W expressions.
Yeah, so we have where, how, which, who, what, why. I think those are all.
Why?
Perfect. Thank you very much, Daniel.
Because.
Because?
Yes,
Because
yes.
is important. Because sometimes is used kind of like a conjunction, or it adds
Okay.
on an adverbial clause sometimes,
Because
or
of the
another kind of
weather.
clause. Mm-hmm. Exactly. All right. So there's still one more type of word that I want to just discuss briefly before we get into the notes. Can anyone see? I'm going to make one more sentence, and I want to see if you guys can identify what word we still haven't talked about. I walked the dog in the morning.
preposition,
Prepositions, yes. Prepositions are these tiny little words that sometimes we forget, but they can be very important. What are some examples of prepositions?
in, at, between, under, beside, across,
By.
along.
Excellent. Great start. We have tons of prepositions, but those are some of the most important ones. And we'll talk about those a little bit today, but they're pretty complex. So definitely that would be something that we can talk about in future lessons a little more deeply. Okay, so those are all the important ones we're going to be talking about today. There are still other parts of speech like articles that we haven't talked about, but those are the most important ones. So I'm going to give you guys a couple sentences, and I want you guys to try to identify what words are being used. So talk about part of speech in the sentences I give you. I'm starting with Ali Beck. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. She dropped off her daughter at school.
I must say about all of the elements.
Yeah. And if you want, I can put it in the chat box.
Okay, she is a pronoun. Dropped is a verb. Can you remind me, daughter?
Yes, she dropped off her daughter at school. We could also say it, she dropped her daughter off at school.
Okay, daughter is objective. At is a proposition. There is the article. School is a noun. It's I think it's another objective.
All right, awesome. So I'll go through this once. That way we can get better practice at doing this. She is a noun, and it's in the subject position. Dropped off is a phrasal verb, meaning we have a verb plus a preposition being used as a verb together. We have the word her, which is a possessive adjective. Then daughter, which would be the object in this case, as well as a noun. And at school is like a prepositional phrase. So we have the preposition at, which shows us where, and then it gives us a relationship. So at school, in the morning, on the table. We have a noun used to show relationship in the world or in time. Thank you very much, Alibek. Aka, are you ready for a sentence?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. It swam downstream. It swam downstream.
It is subject. Swam is above. Down. Preposition? No. Preposition. Okay. Stream is the object.
Sure. Yes. Yes. Thank you very much, Aka. Sultan, it's your turn. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, your sentence is, she mailed the letter to her friend. She mailed the letter to her friend.
She subject.
Mhm.
Mailed the verb.
Mhm.
Here object.
Mhm.
The little I think which adject I don't know. She subject.
Yeah, so we
Mail.
have the subject, the verb, and then the letter. What is the letter?
I think object.
Mhm. So that's an object, and usually an object, it can be like more than one word, and in this case we have an article plus a noun to make the whole object.
Good.
What about to her friend? What is to?
To preposition.
It's a preposition?
Yes.
Right? Yes, preposition. And then her friend?
Object.
Mhm.
No.
In this sentence, we have two objects. One is direct and one is indirect, but we're going to talk about that more in a little bit, and we're going to learn some rules to identify each. So we'll leave that there for a second. Rafa, you're up next. Are you ready for a sentence?
Yes.
Okay. The cats pooped on my computer. Cats pooped on my computer.
The cats are the subject. Pooped on is the phrasal verb. I don't know what is mean, but my computer is the object of the sentence. My
Okay.
is the pronoun, personal pronoun. Pronoun.
You're right.
Possession pronoun.
Yes. Possessive pronoun, exactly.
Pronoun. Yeah.
Awesome. You gave a pretty good description. The way you described it was pretty much right, but I would say that it's probably not a phrasal verb. What we have here is the verb, pooped, and on my computer is showing where they did it. Where did they do this verb? On my computer. And I gave you kind of a funny sentence. Does anyone want to give like a polite definition for the verb poop?
Similar to pee,
Defecate.
more dangerous.
Defecate. Defecate is a good synonym. It's a polite way to say it. So not a very good cat. I might be angry if a cat pooped on my computer. Does that clear it up?
I got you. Thank you.
I cut his head off.
Yeah. I don't know if I would get his head off, but I would be pretty upset, for sure. Okay, Ismail, you're up next.
Yes.
Okay, yours is, we wrote letters to the governor. On Tuesday. We wrote letters to the governor on Tuesday.
We wrote letters to the governor on Tuesday. We, subject. Wrote, verb. Letters, track object. To proposition. The governor, indirect object. On proposition. Tuesday, noun.
Excellent. You are a pro. Awesome job. And Daniel, you get the last one. I speedily ran through the market. I speedily ran through the market.
I, subject, speedily, adverb, run, past tense verb, through, preposition, and the market, direct object.
Excellent.
Direct object.
All right. So now, after you guys have all done a wonderful job identifying those parts of speech, I'm going to send you the notes, but I'm going to warn you that some really funky formatting things happened here. So we're going to skip the first couple pages because they just don't look right. They just don't work well. So I am going to share my screen and show you guys where we're starting. We're starting here with direct and indirect objects. So we're going to learn a little bit more about how to identify direct and indirect objects. This first part, number 1, you're going to read something about direct and indirect objects, and then there are 3 examples. So we're going to start with Ali Beck. Read that for us.
Teacher, can you reduce the page, please, a little bit? Because I'm on iPad and...
Oh, yes. So we're going to start on these notes. We're starting on page 2. It's page 2 underneath the part where it says questions. So it says direct and indirect objects. Number 1. You're going to read number 1 plus 3 examples.
If the indirect object comes first and in a sentence, there is no preposition. They gave Harold a new car. Mr. Jones offered the girls a cake. My grandma always wished me good luck.
Thank you very much. Ken, will you read number 2 and the examples?
Okay. If it comes second, a preposition must be used. They gave a new car to Harold. Mrs. Jones offered a cake to the girls. My grandma always wishes a good luck to me.
Thank you very much. And this last part, we get a little bit more information here. Sultan, can you read that?
Okay, if the direct object is a pronoun, it, this, it comes first, and we must use preposition compare the difference in the following examples. I bought it for my sister.
There's a couple more on the next page.
Can you send it to him? I will get it for you as soon as I can. No.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, so we have some examples of what not to do, and that would be, I bought my sister it. Can you send him it? I'll get it as soon as I can. So basically, the three rules we have here are indirect object, then direct object. You don't have to worry too much. If you put it in that order, that's all you need to do. If you switch the order and start with the direct object, you need to use a pronoun or a preposition for the indirect. However, if we're using a pronoun, like in the last examples, then we don't have a choice anymore. We have to put it first and use a preposition. So I gave you some examples of what not to do. However, I have a quick note for you, and I'm going to highlight it here and ask, let's see. Next up is Rafa. Can you read that for us, the note?
We can use the verbs promise, so, and tell with the indirect object only, but without a preposition. Compare the examples. I can promise you, or I can't promise it to you. Show him, or show it to him. Can you tell me? But remember, can you say it to me? After the verb say, we must use the pronoun and preposition in the English language.
Thank you very much. So this is kind of where it gets complicated. Some verbs you can use an indirect object only, but other verbs require that you use a direct object. So this is a very common mistake between say and tell. Frequently people mix them up and they'll say something like, say me. But for say, we cannot do that. We have to have a direct object before the indirect object. But with tell, that's not necessary. And for this one, it changes sometimes depending on each verb, but I gave you just some quick examples of certain verbs that work in one way and verbs that work in another. Do you guys have any questions before we get some practice and make our own sentences?
No.
Okay. So let's practice this a little bit. And again, I'm sorry for some weird formatting issues. The numbers are totally insane. Number 1 is going to be for Sultan. Then Rafa, you can get number 12. Number 23 is for Ismail. Daniel, number 34. Ali Beck, number 45. Ken, number 56. And Adela, number 67. And Adela, welcome to class.
Thank you.
Okay, so write these sentences using the prompts. And you can scroll up to see the notes as well to make sure you're doing it right. Compare it with the examples given above. And if you guys have any questions as you're writing, let me know. I'll give you guys 2 or 3 minutes to finish your sentences.
Me number 1?
Sultan, yeah, you have number 1.
Make sentence.
Huh?
Make sentence?
Yes, make a sentence starting with the prompt. So use the words that you're given, and then for number 1, you're going to add an indirect object, then a direct object. So you're going to get creative and finish the sentence using whatever words you like, but you have to make sure that you use them in the order that you're given. So you're going to do indirect object first, and then a direct object. All right, I'm going to stop my screen share for a second. So if you need to memorize your sentence stem, do that now or type it into the chat box so that you don't forget it. Okay. Daniel, read us your sentence.
The instructor offered help to us.
Interesting. All right. The instructor offered help to us. Great. Well done. And Rafa, read us your sentence.
The plumber sent a pipeline to John's house by a delivery truck, but it broke down before its arrival due to a fender bender.
Wow, complex. So tell us, what's your direct and then your indirect objects?
I don't know. The plumber is the subject, sent is the verb, a pipeline is direct object, to John's house is the indirect object, another second delivery truck, it's another indirect object could be, and another sentence, I think.
Yeah, so your sentence was complex, and I appreciate that. You gave us the basics, the indirect and the direct object, and you added a little creativity on there. Good sentence. Thanks, Rafa. Adela, read us your sentence.
Yes, Danny brought flowers that he bought yesterday. Because it's only an indirect, I think, is the number 7. No?
Yeah, number 67.
Yes.
So,
no direct, right. Only direct.
It's definitely a good sentence. Denny bought flowers that he bought yesterday. He brought flowers that he bought yesterday. Excellent. Well done.
Because if I add is brought me, this is direct, me.
Exactly. Yeah. Good point. Thanks, Adela. All right, we're still waiting on a couple more. If you guys have already finished your sentences and you want to try another one, we have a couple at the bottom that I'm going to put in the chat box for you guys. So you can try either of these last two if you're just sitting around waiting. Number 8, no, I don't want to hear it. Don't tell, and then you have to add an indirect object. Then number 9 is the king gave, and then use both in any order. So that one's pretty free. Ismail, read us your sentence. Ismail,
sorry,
are you there?
You skipped my sentence.
Did I skip your sentence?
Yeah.
I did that to someone else the other day too. I feel so bad.
The king gave an order to me.
I posted twice on
Where is
the...
it? I don't see it.
Really? Maybe
Chat,
the...
chat box.
Is it in? Let me look.
Okay,
No, I
I
don't see it anywhere.
posted on the
Under
other
you.
Verb
chat.
line. Does
Okay.
anyone else see his sentence?
Yes. The
You see
king.
it?
Yes, yes, I see.
You see Ken's sentence?
Ismail, the king give any order to me. It's from Ismail.
So let's go over that one since I already read that one. All right, so the king gave an order to me. Ismail, explain your sentence. What objects did you include and which order?
The king gave an order to me. Indirect object and direct object. An order, direct object, me, indirect object.
Exactly. Thank you very much. And now we have Ken's sentence. They had promised it to their customers. Ken, explain that one to us.
Oh yeah, it is a direct and like pronoun direct. I forgot what direct something. And customers is indirect of it is a direct object and pronoun, and customers is the direct object. No, indirect.
Indirect.
Indirect. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you very much, Ken.
You're welcome.
Okay. Am I waiting on any other sentences? Sultan, did you get a chance to do your sentence?
Yes, number one, okay, non-direct.
Okay. Can you put it in the chat box for us?
Okay. Danny brought computer for his family.
Okay. So you said Denny bought a computer for his family?
Yes, no, right, okay.
Denny brought a computer for his family. So is a computer direct or indirect?
Indirect. His family, for his family.
Okay. So
Maybe
if we use indirect first, which object was going to come first?
without for his family.
So Denny brought a computer?
Yes.
And
This
is
direct.
a computer direct or indirect?
Direct.
Yes, it's a direct object. All right. Any questions on this before? We have a couple more. They had promised a word. Ismail, explain your sentence to us. Ismail, will you read one of your sentences and give us an explanation for it?
They had promised a word, direct object. Don't tell any excuse, direct object.
Exactly. All right. Thank you very much. And if we wanted to add indirect objects to that sentence, Rafa, where would we add them? So if we wanted to add an indirect object,
Don't tell an excuse to the boss. He's a crazy man.
Okay. Excellent. So we could say, don't tell any excuse to the boss. Or we could format it in another way. Let's have Adela. If I wanted to change the order of those, how would I do it? So the sentence we just said is, don't tell any excuse to the boss. What if I wanted to flip those direct and indirect objects?
Don't tell the boss. Don't tell to the boss. No, don't tell the boss any excuse.
Yes. Excellent. All right, I think you guys have this. Awesome job. Any last questions before we move on to the next section? Great. Then we're going to move on to the adverbs section. This is something that you don't need to have in a sentence, but many sentences do have them. And it's complex because when we put them in a sentence, they don't always go in the same place. So we're going to talk about what different kinds of adverbs there are, where we put them when we use them, and then we'll be doing some practice on our own. So the first type we have is adverbs of manner. Sultan, can you read this one for us?
Me?
Yep, Sultan, go ahead and read adverbs of manner.
Okay. This answer the question how. This adverb usually comes after the direct object, or if there is no direct object after the verb. She speaks Italian beautiful. He works well. You must drive your car carefully. Eat quickly.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have adverbs of place, which goes over 2 pages here. Rafa, will you read adverbs of place?
Of course. Adverbs of place. These answer the question where. This adverb usually comes after the object, otherwise after the verb. We saw you there. We were sitting here. We look everywhere. Have you seen my glasses anywhere? I'm sure I left them somewhere. I can find them anywhere.
Thank you very much. And I just want to point out that both of these, it looks like they come at the end of a sentence, but we could make the sentences longer. That's why it's important to remember exactly where it comes after the direct object or the verb. Because if I wanted to, I could say, he works well during the day, but not at night. And in that case, it wouldn't be just at the end of the sentence. So it's important to remember exactly where it comes in the sentence, because if you make the sentence longer, then it won't be at the end anymore. All right, next up, adverbs of time. Ismail, read adverbs of time for us.
Adverbs of time. These answer the question when. This adverb usually comes either at the very beginning of the sentence or at the end. Afterwards, we decided to go by car. I have done that journey before. Still and yet.
Very much. Still and yet will be for Daniel to read.
Still and yet. Note, yet and still. Yet should be placed at the end of the sentence. The still should be placed before the verb, except with the verb to be when it comes after. We haven't started yet. He still wears old-fashioned clothes. She's still a student. Compare these 2 sentences. The train still hasn't arrived. The train hasn't arrived yet.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next up, we have adverbs of frequency. Ken, will you read adverbs of frequency?
Okay. Who, me or?
Ken, yes, go ahead.
Okay. Adverb of frequency. This answers the question how many times. This adverb comes after the verb to be. It is always honest. Comes before simple tenses of all other verbs. They sometimes spend the whole of Saturday fishing. Comes after the first auxiliary in a tense consisting of more than one verb. I have often wondered how they did that. I can sometimes go without food for days.
Thank you very much. And we have a note here that I'll read. Note, used to and have, the frequency adverb is usually placed in front. For example, we always used to look forward to the school holidays. He never has any trouble with his old car. And the last one we have here, oh, almost the last one, the adverbs of degree. Adela, will you read about adverbs of degree?
This answers the question to what extent this adverb can modify an adverb or an adjective and comes before the word it modifies. The bottle is almost full, nearly empty. She should be able to pass the exams quite easily. The following adverbs of degree can also modify verbs: almost, nearly, quite, hardly, scarcely, barely, just. They follow the same pattern as frequency adverbs in terms of where they are placed. I quite understand. We had almost reached the hut when the rain started. I'm just beginning a new course.
Thank you very much. And the last section we have here is called inversion. And it's a little more complex. It's like one more level. It's also very infrequently used. If you begin a sentence with one of the following, the normal word order changes. The verb comes first, followed by the subject. So that's when we're using, sometimes when we're using never, or seldom, scarcely, when, no sooner than, nowhere, in no circumstances, on no account, only then, not only. So I'll give you guys some examples. And we don't have to do it this way, but when we start the sentence this way, we have to change around the whole structure. So some examples are, seldom has 1 century seen so many changes. Now, we also could form the sentence in a different way. 1 century has seldom seen so many changes. This is just a new kind of artistic, a very formal and artistic way to form the sentence. So it's not necessarily important to focus on knowing exactly how to make this, although that's helpful too, but just know that when you read something, sometimes they will kind of flip around the sentence structure, and that kind of is confusing. 2 other examples we have. No sooner did we hear the results than there was a knock at the door. Never would I be persuaded to buy a second-hand car. Those are usually used for books, stories, articles, maybe when you're telling some kind of story. Do you guys have any questions on all that information we just read?
So last phrases came from Old English, or?
They're not as used now as they once were. You're right, that they're a little bit antique. They're still frequently used, but only in the form of written English, really, like in a story or in an article. You might hear them, if someone is a really good storyteller, you might hear someone use this format of a sentence in speaking as well, but it's less common. It's more artistic.
The impression of these are kind of artistic or kind of reinforce something?
Yeah, it just changes around the way you say the sentence to emphasize different things. In English, we usually put the thing with the most emphasis at the beginning of the sentence. So changing this word order kind of emphasizes how infrequent. So most of these, like seldom, no sooner, and never, you're really emphasizing seldom has a century seen so many changes. You're emphasizing that it's very rare, that it's not very common.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem. Any other questions?
Can we change the tense too? The verb, for example, or the passive voice, or no? I try to...
So using this inversion with the passive tense?
Yes, to change. I try to have a sentence, but I need to change for have a sense. I don't know. Sorry.
Okay, let's try and come up with. Sure. So let me try and think of an example of a passive tense sentence used with no sooner. No sooner was the mess made than my mom walked in. So we can use this with the passive. And I'm going to stop screen sharing and put that example in the box. No sooner was the mess made than my mom walked in. Is that the kind of example you were looking for?
I write one using in the first, but
Okay.
I don't know. It's correct.
So,
it's my question.
Not exactly, and it's just because of the order. If you look at all of those inversion examples, we start the sentence with the adverb and then follow it by a verb. So the problem with your sentence is that you don't follow it by a verb, you follow it by his car, which is the object, basically. Here it's being used as the subject because passive flips the object and the subject. But if you change it, you could. So never was his car driven by him. It's kind of a strange sentence, but it's grammatically correct. Never was his car driven by him.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
No.
Excellent. It's a lot of information. We're going to get a little bit of practice now. And of course, this is something that will require plenty of practice in the future as well. And I'm going to share this list of sentences in the chat box and assign you each one. So, those are all of the prompts. So I gave you guys a sentence, and you have to add in adverb in an appropriate location. The first one, he drives his car carefully, is for Adela. The next one, John fell off the bike with the adverb almost, Ken. The next one, he listens to the radio with the adverb often, is Daniel. I'm living with my parents with the adverb still, Ismail. We're going to the museum with the adverb tomorrow, is for Rafa. Pete gets angry with the preposition never, is for Sultan. Write those sentences in the chat box really quickly, and then we'll continue.
You can share the example.
The screen?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
Thank you.
I wish this document had formatted properly, but it did not. Okay, I'll give you guys one more minute, and if you already finished your sentence, feel free to grab another one from below and continue writing sentences here. We don't have much time left, so get as many done as possible within the short amount of time that we have. All right. I'm going to check the sentences, which means I actually have to take down my screen share quickly because I'm having issues with my thing today. But I put the examples, I'm going to put them in both chat boxes so that you guys can have access to them. Okay, the first one I'm looking at comes from the Google chat. They had promised it to their customers. John almost fell off the bike. Excellent. Oh, the first one was from a different exercise. I was like, what is that? Okay. John almost fell off the bike. So almost, what kind of adverb is that? Any ideas?
Degree.
Is it of manner, of place, of time?
Degree.
Degree. Yeah, adverb of degree. Thank you very much. And now I'll grab from the Verbling chat box. He often listens to me or listens to the radio. Excellent, very much. What? I can't talk today. Okay, Daniel, what kind of adverb is that?
Frequency.
Frequency.
Often.
Excellent. We'll have to finish up very quickly because I have another class starting right now. I will go to the theater tomorrow with my nieces. They love it. Perfect, Rafa. Thank you. We're going to the museum tomorrow. Excellent, Ismail. Pete never gets angry. Yep, that's another good one. Are you still married to him? Excellent, Ismail. Thank you. Carefully, he drives his car. Okay, that's not a bad way to do it. Thanks. I think it might make it sound a little better if you said he drives his car carefully, but that one's good too.
I thought this is the before the sentence. I need to write this the adverb before the sentence.
That's okay too. This one can come at the beginning or at the end. And you haven't met her yet. Excellent job. Unfortunately, I have to dash now because I have to start my class. But you guys did an excellent job. And if you have more questions, direct them to my Facebook or my Verbling inbox. Thank you all for coming, and I'll see you guys again soon.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.